Hey guys, Tania Lex here. I am your judge for your CDSP obedience trial on October 17th and 18th. I figured it would be easier to do our general briefing by video rather than in person, since I would have to do it multiple times, since not everybody is going to be arriving at the show site at the same time. So let's go over some information for next weekend. First, I want to talk about the schedule and the format of the trial, because that's going to be a little bit different than what we've done in the past. Basically, we've got people creating from cars, and we didn't want everybody to have to stay the whole day and hang out in their car the whole day. That didn't sound fun. So what we're doing is we're running trials back to back. So it's going to be starter novice trial 1, then trial 2, then going into novice trial 1, trial 2, open, and so on and so forth. So the benefit of this is if you plan on moving up, you're still going to be able to move up. You're just going to be staying at the show site a little bit longer. But if you're not showing until utility, you don't have to get there at 9 a.m. and sit around all day. So I've been really liking this. I ran another trial this way a couple months ago. It worked out really well. It was less ring setup, less ring teardown, so that helps minimize touching of equipment and also helps our day go faster. So let's talk about what's going to happen right away at 9 a.m. We're going to have the starter novice briefing. So we're going to have all of the starter novice competitors for both trial 1 and trial 2 come into the building so you can see your healing pattern, so I can brief you on the rules of the starter novice class, the flow of the class, how that's going to work. Please wear a mask when you come into the building for the trial briefing. Once that starter novice briefing is done, we're going to have the first team come into the building. The first team is going to have 8 minutes to warm up, and then that team will go into the ring, and the second team will come into the building and have 8 minutes to warm up. We're going to set a timer. I know it's tough, guys, not having the benefit of having your dog in the building and being able to give them that acclimation time. I know that some dogs are going to have a harder time with that than others, so we're doing our best to make sure that dogs can get as much time in the building as we can allow so that they can try to get acclimated, warmed up. Obviously, you can also warm up in the parking lot outside, but it's not quite the same as being in the building. So we're doing our best with that. We're going to have a door steward that's kind of trying to keep you guys apprised of where we are and make sure we get people into the building on time. And we're also going to do a Google Doc that you can access on your phone that the desk steward is going to keep updated with information about who's in the ring, who's warming up, and when you're next. So you can kind of keep an eye on that and have an idea of when you need to start getting your dog warmed up. So we're going to do trial 1, then trial 2. We'll do awards between. I'll come outside for awards, just so they don't have to have people gathering in the building more than we need to. Then we're going to go into novice, and it'll work the same way. We'll do the novice briefing, then trial 1, then trial 2. Taking a little break, then open starting about 1:30 and utility starting about 2:30. So these are approximate times. These classes will not start before the time listed. So if we happen to get done with starter novice at 10:30, we're not going to start novice at 10:30. We will wait until 11. However, you probably don't want to be pulling into the parking lot at 11 if you're in novice, because we're going to be briefing at that time. So we might start after 11, but chances are good, if we did our math correctly, we will be starting at 11 a.m. So make sure you're there a little bit earlier than the time your class starts so you can chill a little bit, get your dog out, get your dog pottied, whatever you need to do so that you're not feeling rushed when your class starts. Sunday, same deal, working exactly the same way. We just have fewer entries that day, so it will be a little bit shorter of a day. So some general procedures and rule changes due to COVID-19 that I just want to make sure everybody's aware of. These were in your premium, so you should be familiar with them. Obviously, if you're sick, please don't come. If you've been sick, please don't come. If you've been in contact with somebody who has COVID, please don't come. I know it's tough we will refund your entry fees. I had to pull out of a trial earlier this year. I didn't have COVID, it turned out, but had the sniffles and just didn't want to get anybody sick. And so we ask the same courtesy from you. I know it's tough that we haven't had trials this year, and so everybody's really anxious to show their dog. But please be courteous to the workers, the judge, people who are putting on this show, and your fellow competitors, and stay home if you are sick. There's not going to be any food on site. Usually we do like to provide food for people, but obviously we can't under the circumstances. So you probably won't need any because you're not going to be there all day, but if you do, please bring your own. Crating is going to be from the car. As I mentioned, workers, volunteers are allowed to have their dogs inside with them so they don't have to stay in the car by themselves all day, but that is the only exception to that rule. So who is allowed in the building? The judge, the workers, obviously, the competitor in the ring. One dog is going to be in the building warming up. You may have a friend come in to video your run. Class briefings, as I mentioned, are also going to be in the building. And if you need to use the bathroom, obviously, you can come in to do that. If you have questions, or if you need to get a move-up processed, you need to talk to our trial secretary, obviously you can come in for that. Please make sure that you are wearing a mask when you're in the building. Unless you're working a dog, so if you're in the ring, you're warming up, you don't have to. We do want your dogs to perform as well as possible, and so you don't need to wear a mask while you're working your dog unless you want to. Of course, you certainly may if you would like to. I will not be wearing a mask in the ring when I'm judging unless it is requested that I do so by the competitor who's coming in, and please don't hesitate to ask. I'll have one in my pocket. It'll be ready at a moment's notice to pull out. I do want everybody to feel comfortable in the ring. Obviously, I'll be maintaining social distance at all times from the competitors in the ring, but I do want to make sure that people can hear the directions that I'm giving for healing patterns and all of that kind of thing. So I won't be planning on wearing a mask unless you ask me to. And again, please don't hesitate. I'm happy to do so if that's what you would like. And then outside, shouldn't need masks, but obviously if you're getting up close and personal to other people, not able to maintain social distance for whatever reason, please mask up at that time. And again, placements and ribbons are going to be announced outside, just to keep from having multiple people gathered in the building more than we need to. As far as ring procedures, things will be done a little bit differently, just to try to minimize touching of objects and try to minimize the number of people in the ring. Leashes are going to be kept by the handler. So in your pocket, around your neck, we're not going to have stewards taking your leash and then bringing it back to you. So key here is figure out how you're going to do this in a way that the leash is not interfering with your dog's performance. So if you're in starter novice, you need to have a 6-foot leash, so it's a little bit harder. If you're in novice or above, you don't have to have that long of a leash. So maybe choose a shorter leash so it can fit in your pocket better. Had a couple issues in the last trial I judged with leashes that were around people's necks or hanging out of people's pockets, swinging at the dog and kind of interfering with their performance. We don't want that to happen, so I'm not going to give you any advice on it when you're in the ring. That's yours to figure out, but I just want you to be prepared for that. Figure 8s will be done with chairs rather than with people, so maybe even a little bit easier for some people or some dogs. We will have a walking steward. The walking steward will be masked. And if you're in open, dumbbells are not going to be handled by the stewards. You can pick it up from the table and put it back on the table, or you can keep it with you for the rest of your performance if it fits in a pocket or something like that. As far as utility, unfortunately our stewards do need to handle your equipment, but they will be using hand sanitizer between teams. Okay, let's talk about some rules. First off, it's your responsibility to know the rules. I hope that you've read through them. I hope you know what's required of you in general in the venue and in your specific class that you're entering. But please ask if you have questions. Feel free to contact me by email before the trial. feel free to ask prior to your class in the class briefing. I'm happy to clarify things. Collars allowed in the ring: flat buckle collar, limited slip martingale collar. That's it. No choke chains allowed in the ring. In the same vein, no corrections are allowed in the ring. Corrections in the ring are an NQ. Alright, let's talk cues, because this is where things get a little bit confusing for some people, and this is one of the benefits of CDSP, is that we're a little bit more generous with the cues that you can give your dog. So you can help your dog in certain ways, but then there are also things that you can do that are going to be either NQs or points off. So I want you to be aware of those things. First off, you can use a verbal and a hand signal together at any time in CDSP, other than the utility signals exercise. So make sure that if you're using a verbal and a hand signal together, that they are together simultaneously. If it's one and then when your dog doesn't perform the other, that's not free, that's an extra cue, so that's going to be points off. With that said, your hand signals can't look like you're luring your dog, okay? So make sure that your hand signal is a continuous motion of your hand, and then your hands come to a natural position, whether that's at your side or hand on your stomach for heeling, whatever that might be. If it looks like you're luring your dog, even if you don't have food in your hand, that is going to be an NQ. Now you can cue each piece of an exercise. So when you're heeling, you can cue heel, and then you can cue sits. You can tell your dog to sit if you're not sure they're going to sit when you stop. Make sure that your sit cue is simultaneous with your stop, because if you stop and your dog doesn't sit, and you're waiting, and then you cue a sit, that's an extra cue. So it's got to be simultaneous. For example, on the recall over the bar jump, you can cue over, front, okay? So helping your dog get each piece of the exercise. There are a couple exceptions to that. Make sure that you know what those are. For example, on the retrieve over the high jump, your dog has to go, jump, and retrieve on the first cue, but then you can call them back, you can give them an over to hit that jump on the way back, and then a front. Additional cues, 3 points. You can cue almost anything multiple times. It's a 3-point deduction for extra cues, but use them. Use them to help your dog if you need them. There are a couple situations where you can't use an extra cue and where failure to perform on the first cue is an NQ. Off the top of my head, on your go out, your dog needs to leave your side on the first cue, and on your retrieves, the dog needs to leave on the first cue. But for the most part, you can cue multiple times if you need to. Now, every time you do, it's 3 points off. So you can NQ just because, based on racking up lots and lots of additional cues. So don't give more cues than you need to, but obviously I want to see your dogs be successful, so make sure that you're helping them out when they need help. Be aware of the difference between a cue and praise. So praise is allowed in the ring with CDSP. I want to see you praising your dogs and telling them when they're doing a good job, but if your praise is acting as a prompt for your dog to do a behavior that they're not doing, that's a cue. Okay, so if your dog's attention wanders and they're not doing what they're supposed to do, whether that's heeling, whether that's, they go out for the dumbbell but then they start sniffing around in the ring, you say, good boy, and they get back on task, that's a cue, because what you're doing is you're prompting a behavior. Just another, this isn't necessarily cue related, no sits are 5 points. So whether that's in heeling, whether that's front, finish, if your dog fails to sit, and we move on to the next part of the exercise, that's a 5-point deduction. You can save yourself points by cueing that sit. Okay, so if you are heeling and you stop and say sit at the same time and your dog sits, that is no points off. If you're heeling and you stop and you wait, thinking that your dog is going to sit and they don't, and then you cue sit, that's 3 points. If you are heeling and you stop and your dog doesn't sit and you do nothing, that's 5 points. So take your pick. To some extent, you're in control of some of these situations, and you can help your dog so that you can get a better score. Just notes on the leash should not be used to control the dog. So in heeling, there's not too much that you can do that's going to NQ you as long as you're demonstrating teamwork, as long as you and your dog are working together. Positional stuff is just points. However, if you're using your leash to control your dog, if the leash is tight and it looks like the only reason that your dog is in position is because you've got that leash cinched up really short, that's going to be an NQ. So trust your dog, give your dog enough leash that they can be making the choice to work with you, and you should be good for your heeling. Okay, food rewards. You cannot enter the ring with food in your hand. It's an NQ. Don't do it. Get that last treat out of your hand before you bring your dog into the ring. Food that you bring into the ring has to be in a pocket, pants pocket, jacket pocket, whatever it is, just no bait bags. You may reward after each exercise. Please wait until I say exercise finished. If you're rewarding at any other time in the ring, that is going to be an NQ. You may not give food while you're moving from one exercise to another. You may not give food during the exercise before I say exercise finished. That treat that you give has to be given in position before breaking from position. So you've got your dog in heel position or whatever position the exercise ends. If you forget and you break your dog out and you start moving to the next exercise, that's going to be an NQ. So make sure that you get that treat in there before you move from position, before your dog moves from position. Otherwise, we're going to be in trouble. Okay? And if you forget, that's fine. Just your dog doesn't get a treat for that one. Just move on to the next exercise. Dropping food in the ring is a 5-point deduction. Don't do it. Keep your food in your hand. Try to use things that your dog can swallow. If your dog drops food in the ring, aka hacks up a treat that got stuck in his throat, that's also going to be 5 points. So make sure you use easily swallowed treats. And at the beginning of each exercise, I'm going to ask you a question. The question is, are you ready? Okay, that is not a rhetorical question. I need an answer. And that answer can be no. If you're not ready, if you need more time to set up your dog, just tell me that. Nope, not ready yet. That's fine. I'll give you another couple seconds to get ready. I want you to be ready to perform the exercise with your dog. And if you are ready, please tell me yes, nod, whatever. Just let me know so that I can give you the next cue. To close things out, everybody wants to go in the ring and do well, obviously. Get that cue, get that ribbon, get that title, whatever it is. And sometimes things don't go well. We get really nervous. As we step into the ring, we really want things to go the way we want them to. And just remember as you're going into the ring with your dog how lucky we are to be here. We haven't been able to have trials all year, so obviously we're extra lucky to be able to get to do this and do it safely. But even just every day, you know, I think this year especially has shown all of us that life is short and we never know what's going to happen, and especially our dogs' lives are short. And so make sure that you're appreciating the time that you're able to spend with your dog, regardless of the result, Q or NQ. If it's an NQ, no big deal. Come back and try it again. Just make sure that you're appreciating your dog and appreciating the time that you get to spend with your dog, and that they want to play these silly games with us. It's pretty amazing if you think about it. So have fun. I try to make everybody feel comfortable in my ring. If you have questions, make sure you ask. Just make sure that whether you get that cue, don't get that cue, you're having fun and you're appreciating your dog. And yeah, it's going to be great. Thanks, guys. Looking forward to seeing everybody, and let's have fun.